Hey everybody, it's Jeff from MTG with MTG Joe tonight. We're going to be doing a set review in Strixhaven. So thank you, Joe, for hopping on tonight for this.
No problem. Thanks for having me. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm MTG Joe. You'll often find me hanging around in Jaffer's chat, bullying him into playing blue-white control. I'm a fellow streamer, produce a lot of YouTube content, and frequently will find me in high mythic trying to throw cleaves onto various creatures.
Start off with the review.
Yeah, so first card up is Belderos Witherbloom. It's a 7-mana Golgari dragon for a 4/4 flyer. This creature creates a pest token, so it's one of the themes of the set. Pests are 1/1 creatures that when they die, you gain a life. So on each player's upkeep, it will create a pest. And then the second part of its ability, I don't think is that meaningful, at least in the current format. Pay 10 life, untap all the lands you control, activate this ability only once. If you do have a lot of life, it'll allow you to play a couple cards a turn, or like a couple cards each turn extra, but I think it's really the token generation. What are your thoughts, Joffrey?
I don't think it's going to be a good card in Constructed, really, to be it's a cool looking dragon, like it's Golgari. But I don't think it's going to be that great in like standard or historic. Maybe in like if you're playing a play queue, just having fun with stuff. But like I could see the card being more impactful in Commander. For any Commander players out there, like paying 10 life to untap all your lands in a 40 life format. Okay, I'll be happy to do that. The next card though, Life Shadow. That's a lot of mana for a Death Shadow deck, though. That's 7 mana. With
Shadow's probably winning by the time you get to 7 mana.
Yeah. The next card, Blex Vexing Pest, or Search for Blex. It's 2 and a green for the first side, or 2 black for the second side. Legendary Pest. Other pests, insects, snakes, and spiders you control get +1/+1. And when Blex Vexing Pest dies, you gain full life. That's a name. And then search for Blex. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put any number of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. You lose 3 life for each card in your hand this way. What do you think?
Right now with Bone Crusher, I don't think the front half is that useful. I think it really depends on what support pests get. I don't think any of the other creature types are really meaningful at this point. The backside is interesting though. If you do have a way to gain a lot of life, maybe in like a black-white shell where you're really just playing it for the backside for card advantage could be good. Something like Clerics maybe.
Yeah. And there was a comment of like nice Sylvan library, lol. So like the second half of just like the top 5 cards and any number of them to your hand, that I could see being relevant if the format wasn't like the standard format and historic format wasn't so fast. I guess it does seem seems a little slow, like for the format of like just losing 3 life for each card. Again, it kind of like screams EDH to me.
Yeah, but think of something maybe even like historic. If you go Black-White Angels instead of Abzan or Selesnya, you lose the Collected Company, but you're frequently over like 40, 50 life some turns. Being able to draw 5 for 4 mana in that deck is quite meaningful.
True.
Usually one of the gas.
Yeah, so like in that kind of deck, if the Bant Angels or Selesnya Angels transitions over to that, I can see that. Or maybe it could be Abzan, just so you can keep Coco. So then
Pest and Insect Tribal. Be cool. Next, Blot Out the Sky. So this one's an interesting one. Black-White X. You create X tapped 2/1 white-black Inkling tokens with flying. If X is 6 or more, destroy all non-creature, non-land permanents. Sorcery speed, I think is the big thing here.
Yeah, like it's a cool art. Like I like the art a lot. I think this card probably be a standard playable card for like Esper control becomes a thing, or even just using it to make the tokens. Probably at like X for 5, X is 5.
See, I think the big thing too is like the non-creature component. If it did serve as like a one-side planar cleansing, this card would be probably a 4 of in most control decks. Just blow up your board, have my win condition all in one. Might still see play. Even like an Abzan ramp deck, it's pretty easy to get up on mana, and then you can just flood the board. The evasion is nice on the tokens.
Mm-hmm. The next one, Body of Research. It's a very color intensive spell. Creates a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. I like the creature type. Put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of cards in your library.
Claim the Firstborn says thanks.
Yeah.
I think this card is really pushing the how big of a creature can we make that's just a vanilla body. There is Fling, the sorcery speed. I think like Titan's Smash had a couple Genesis Ultimatum decks that he brewed up, where you're using this with Terror of the Peaks as kind of a mega combo. Just kill him in one shot, similar to Beanstalk Giant in the past. A little less utility, can't be hit off the Genesis Ultimatum itself.
That sounds like a Titan thing.
If you're flinging a, throw Embercleave on it, you're good.
Even like in Historic, just using the 1 mana Thud, it's sorcerer speed, but it's another way to just like win the game. I like the art on this one too. A lot of these cards have really cool art in this set.
Yeah, the art's like A+ in this set. All right, Crackle with Power, aka likely never going to see any constructive play, but 2 red XXX, adult content involved. Crackle with Power deals 5 damage times X to each of up to X targets. We're really not going to be able to generate that much mana, it being sorcery speed, so even if Wilderness Reclamation was still a thing, but I don't think it's that meaningful.
Yeah, like this card kind of just another commander card to me. Unless if there's ways to cheat that much mana, which I guess if you have some weird what's the artifact in Historic?
Paradox Engine?
Yes, Paradox Engine. If you have some weird Paradox Engine deck, I guess.
If you're doing engine stuff though, like there's Banefire, uncounterable, easier to cast.
Yeah, that is a lot easier to cast. It's cool that has is that Rowan on it, or yeah, that's Rowan, I believe.
Yeah, we'll get to those walkers in a bit.
The next one, Ecological Appreciation. Oh my gosh. X2 green. Search your library for up to library and graveyard for up to 4 creature cards with different mana value, different names, and have mana value X or less, and then reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards, shuffle the chosen cards into your library, and put the rest into the battlefield. Exile Ecological Appreciation.
So it's like a Gifts Ungiven kind of pile choice. I think this card is ultimately dependent on it. Can you get a combo out of some sort? I don't think doing like the value play is really that effective. If you could do something like Sultai Ultimatum, you can get multicolor, or Sultai Ultimatum, you could only get monocolor. This is one of those cards that I think the combo is really going to be dependent.
I agree. And like maybe like what comes to my mind for like if somebody were to try this in Constructed would be Historic mono green walkers with Leyline on the field and all the dorks and Nissa, and then just getting like a big bomb of a creature onto the field. That's the only thing I could think of if you would see play in arena.
It could be something if you eventually get like a Malira style combo, like the old pod combos for back in the day.
But yeah,
just duplicate effects that would all yield like whatever you choose, you're dead kind of thing.
I actually didn't get to play during that time. I heard like Pod was pretty powerful.
Oh, it was for the 2 weeks I bought the deck and then it got banned, so that was fun.
Oh, did you hate that? Just like I spent all this money on this deck and then all of a sudden banned.
I went from Pod to Is It Delver when Treasure Cruise got played, so I had back-to-back decks get banned in Modern,
Oh,
and then I quit Modern.
when Pioneer first became a thing, I had that experience of I built Golgari Field of the Dead. And then literally the next day after I built it, I actually built another deck as well, a modern deck, Mono Red Phoenix. Literally the next day on that following Monday, Field of the Dead got banned in Pioneer and Faithless Looting got banned in Modern.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's alright, we'll give you one Mythic Rare wild card. Try again.
Alright, so moving on. The next one has pretty cool art too.
Yeah, the next one's a sweet one. So this is a dual-faced legendary creature, 4 mana, pretty restrictive on the Orzhov. A 4 mana 2/4 double strike. Magecraft. So Magecraft, this is the first instance of this new ability. So whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, you get an additional ability. So in this case here, you get to return target non-legendary creature from your graveyard to your hand. The part of the card that is the most interesting to me is the flip side. That wall of text, 8 mana, seems like a lot, but you get a cost reduction of 2 for each creature you sacrifice. And then each opponent sacrifices a creature, and then you create a 3/6 black and red creature token with haste, and whenever this creature attacks, it deals 3 damage to each opponent. Does it get copied, or is it just... So it's only one instance of them sacking. It's an interesting card.
It is. I can kind of see the second half, the Rakdos half seen play maybe in a new Rakdos deck, or just like as a 1 or 2 of in the current Rakdos deck. But I don't think it'll be super impactful. I think people will try it out just to see how it goes.
Yeah, even the front half, like the Magecraft part of having to play instants and sorceries in a deck that's probably pretty high on creatures, for it to take advantage of the return to your hand clause seems kind of at odds with each other.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting. I'm going to jam it during early access. We're just going to sack the board, see what we can get.
Yeah, somebody in chat's mentioning about for EDH that, yeah, like a lot of these cards in the set seem like there are a lot of EDH cards in the set. Just the theme of it overall just seems pretty cool too.
Yeah.
But the next one, I do like how this next one, the alt art is just the extended art is the alt art instead. It looks more traditional, the art on the second one, but Galazeth Prismari, 2 blue red, 3/4 flying. It's an Elder Dragon. I do like how we're getting Elder Dragons in this set. And when it enters, you create a treasure token, and artifacts you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast instant or sorcery spells.
This Goldspan Dragon, is it dragons now? Throw in some green, you could ramp up. Throw in some black, you have disruption. I think the notable thing too, the artifacts you control have tap to add mana. Your treasure tokens, if you don't want to crack it that turn, it still produces 2 mana, I believe, off Goldspan Dragon. In Historic, there's a lot of powerful artifacts. Even something like a Grafdigger's Cage, you lock your opponent out, but now you also can tap it for mana. In a Paradox Engine deck, you color fix as well with this. With Kinnan out, it doubles the mana. So a lot of cool connotations here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I'm excited to see if that does turn into an archetype, or even like if the Is It tempo deck comes back, and this is just thrown right into it.
I got it. Here's your curve. Galliseth, Goldspan Dragon. Throw on an Embercleave. Your Embercleave taps for mana now.
I got Embercleave on this creature that's attacking now, but I'm going to tap it and then use it to shock you.
Your Embercleave now taps for mana to equip. So now you reduce the equip cost. Boom. Embercleave, best card ever printed.
Oh, don't tell Titan about that. The next one, I mean, I really like how it looks.
Oh, it's a Seb McKinnon, obviously.
Yeah.
anything he paints is amazing. The card itself, I have no clue what the hell you're going to do with it. Every color possible of green and black mana, +1, just in case. Exchange your hand in graveyard. Exile Harness Infinity. Why it doesn't give you maximum or no maximum hand size? Don't know. The instant speed's interesting, as pointed out in chat.
Yeah, it definitely is pretty interesting that it's instant speed. I was having a discussion with some of my IRL friends that are huge Commander players, and it's basically Praetor's Council. Praetor's Council is a EDH only specific card. I believe so.
Yeah. 8 mana, exile your graveyard, I think, put it in your hand. You have no maximum hand size.
Yeah. So like, except for this is just missing no maximum hand size on this. But yeah, it's a Seb McKinnon art. Who's not gonna like it? I'm excited to see if it does anything in Constructed. I do think that is way too much mana though to do anything.
Yeah.
Like it is super like color intensive, but maybe the new lands we're getting will help out. Yeah, instant speed could matter with it too. So the next card though, we got a legendary dwarf, a dwarf cleric. So 3 red, white, Hoffrey Ghost Forge. Hope I said pronounce it right, or is it Ofrey? But spirits to control got +1/+1, have trample and haste, and then a lot of text. So whenever a non-token creature you control dies, exile. If you do, create a token that's a copy of the creature, except if it's a spirit, in addition to its other types. And then it has, when this creature leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to your graveyard. 4/5.
I think this card is a pretty good top end. Like, it probably will see some play. Maybe like one cell drain, but if you basically recycle all your creatures once they die. They come back with haste, and then they still remain in your graveyard. Boros is having a graveyard theme in this set, kind of self-mill reanimation, which is a really interesting take on the Boros archetype.
Mm-hmm.
No longer just throw on equipments and say go. 4/5 also decently statted. It's not going to incidentally get killed by the common removal. 5 toughness seems to be the sweet spot in a lot of these decks, where burn-based damage gets around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't really have much of an opinion on this card yet. I think I just need to see play. It does sound like it's kind of cool. Kind of interesting to see a dwarf cleric. I don't recall seeing dwarf cleric before.
Getting called out. 5 mana for your board wipe protection is expensive. I think maybe like as a 1 or 2 of in the top end. You are competing with Scalds.
Yeah, especially with it being legendary too.
Winota. This doesn't really play well with Winota.
Yeah.
If it was a human, then yeah.
And like, you know, there's not many spirits in the format right now.
It goes in your dwarf tribal deck with Magda.
Then you just get treasures, and then you just splash blue to play the Galazeth.
No, yeah. And then you get your Embercleave that taps for mana. Boom. Format solved. All right. So talking about really every mythic in this set seems like it costs like 15 mana.
Maybe they're trying to make mythics more balanced again.
Could be. So Jadzi, Oracle of Arcavios. I will destroy all these names at least once. 8 mana, 5/5. Legendary creature. Discard a card, return it to your hand. Magecraft. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, if you copy it, you reveal top card of your library. If it's a non-land, you can cast it for 1 mana rather than its mana cost. If it's a land, put it into the battlefield. Really powerful effect, very highly costed. The backside is Journey to the Oracle. I believe this is a 4 mana card that the visual for the full art shows it as 3 mana. They messed up the graphics on that. So 4 mana. Basically dump all the lands from your hand into the battlefield. If you control 8 or more lands, you may discard a card. If you do, then you return it to your owner's hand. So basically dump all the lands. I really think if it's going to get played, it's going to be the front side in like a Sultai Ultimatum deck perhaps as a target, or like a big group. Like Simic seems to be focused on ramping again. This could be a top end that you then get to like use it to cast free spells, or like every spell costs 1.
Yeah, I think that this card, like, I agree with you. The first half looks pretty good. Just it's a 5/5. It is a lot of mana for the creature, but the ability on it seems pretty good. The second half, though, the 4 mana half, it does interest me of like maybe it kind of interests me more of like modern comes to mind. I know like we both play pretty much standard and historic only, but modern comes to mind with Primeval Titan and Field of the Dead. So like kind of ramping and then just like dump all the lands in my hand onto the field. Then you're not going to care about getting it back in your hand because your hand's probably gonna be empty at that point. But also I haven't played modern in like a while, so I don't know how well that would go in Primeval Titan decks. Yeah, and the Journey to the Oracle is 2 green. The full art side of it, for some reason, the preview that reason has the Ron mana
just
cost.
Pay for the full art, pay to win. Going forward, all full arts now have a reduced mana cost for casting.
No more Pringles for us. We need full arts.
Yeah. One thing maybe in historic in a Nisa deck, just doubling your mana for the front half. You can easily curve Nisa into this with 5 to 6 lands and then still have mana open to cast another spell to potentially copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, except pointing out like in an ultimatum pile doesn't really do much on its own. Probably doesn't let you combo. You're probably better off with the new Liliana.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing came to mind also when you mentioned historic, maybe a teamer deck or a late game explosion with all the ramp.
Yeah, the only thing is you don't get the Magecraft ability to cast for 1. You want cards that aren't X. Because really what you want to do is reduce the cost, I think.
Yeah. Like when it comes to blue, like I don't have a reclamation deck Kappa. When it comes to blue, I don't really have too much of an opinion on blue cards since I don't play blue much. Except for I've been playing some Sultai now.
That's Moist Golgari.
It's Saugari, okay? The next card, it's a 3 mana Planeswalker. Kasmina's come back. Kasmina Enigma Sage. Each other Planeswalker you control has the loyalty ability of Kasmina Enigma Sage. Starts at 2 loyalty, +2 you scry 1, -1 you create a 0/0 green and blue fractal. Words are hard. Fractal creature token. Put X/1/1 counters on it. -8. Search your library for an instant or sorcery card that shares a color with the Planeswalker exiled. With this Planeswalker, exile that card, then shuffle. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost.
Yeah, as Exile pointed out, I think the biggest thing in Historic is this +3 mana Narset. Just being able to plus and then recycle that ability. Where with a lot of the War of the Spark Planeswalkers that just had downtick abilities, They now get plus abilities. And then notably with the ultimate, if you're able to get up to it, it fetches Genesis Ultimatum, Emergent Ultimatum, Jeskai Ultimatum. Get to cast those for free.
Yeah, like, yeah, and I know like a lot of people were kind of down. They were kind of putting this card down. Like when I saw on Twitter, they weren't thinking too highly of it. I feel like a lot of the time when we see cards kind of like this, or that people don't really think of, later on we see it's gonna do something later on. Like later on we do see it do something in a format, or like a hot second. So I think this card potentially could do something. You know, a lot of people I saw weren't thinking too much of it.
Look, the last time they printed a 3-mana Simic Planeswalker that people thought wasn't very good, it ruined every Magic format in Oko. Now, this is nowhere near the power of Oko, but
yeah,
it's probably more of a synergy-based card. You obviously need some Planeswalkers and then some top end for the ultimate, but it's something to try out, I think. I think all 3-mana Planeswalkers need to be considered to some extent.
I do like how in the alt art, the owl, her owl is just, one of them is just resting on her staff.
Oh yeah, A+ with all the art.
Yes.
Now, speaking of big, giant, dumb spells, Magma Opus, 8 mana. Magma Opus steals 4 damage as you want to divide it. Tap up to 2 target permanents. Create a 4/4 blue-red elemental token and draw 2 cards. A lot of things, a lot of mana. It is instant speed. You can also have the option to discard it for 2 mana to create a treasure token, so it somewhat ramps you. It is a lot of mana. There is a couple ways to cast things in this set from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. There's the 4 mana red creature that we will take a look at. I think if you are throwing things in the graveyard, it's pretty good in maybe is it dragons list, like with Goldspan. It helps you ramp up to those bigger dragons. With the treasure token, we're seeing that theme. Pretty much it, what I think. I know this is probably the last card you're going to play, Jaffer, a blue and red card.
Yeah, I don't really have much of an opinion on this, except for I think the art has an elephant in the middle of it.
I see an angel.
It looks like an elephant to me. Like right here, you see like tusks, and then the ears.
Arms.
They look like tusks to me. Then the ears kind of look like, they do look like wings to me. But like, is it Dumbo?
It's the ghost of Dumbo.
So the next one, it's a colorless spell, and it's a sorcery lesson. 7 mana, mascot exhibition. I almost said a different name for the first half. So create a 2/1 white and black inkling creature token with flying, a 3/2 red and white spirit token, and a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token.
Well, we don't have Tron lands, so we can probably pass this one over.
Yeah, like it's a limited card to me. I don't see it seen playing anywhere else. Like that'd be very weird if it did.
Don't worry, guarantee I'll open up 4 of these as my mythics, as my first sets. While I'm mixing up constructed mythics.
And the next one, we're getting into a white card.
Bird Advisor, Mavinda Student's Advocate, 3 mana, 2/3 flyer. So think Feather kind of is the way I see this. For 0 mana, once a turn, you can target an instant sorcery in your graveyard, and you can cast it. I think you may cast. So if it's a if that spell doesn't target a creature you control, so think pump spells, right? So either anything that targets yourself, God's Willing, Infuriate, any kind of bonus on your own. It's basically a feather that doesn't need to be on the field, so you can kind of recycle things that way, which is kind of cool. It is activate only once per turn, so it looks like you can do it on your opponent's turn as well. I don't think I don't know where they came up with 8 mana, that being the price, but I think for the 0, it could be something in kind of like a prowess deck. There are some creatures in the common and common slots with Magecraft that want you to target themselves. So kind of a heroic style deck that we saw in like Theros block, stuff like that could be interesting.
Yeah, like it looks interesting to me. The 8 mana thing does kind of throw me off. Like, where I agree to where did they come up with that? But the ability itself is pretty interesting overall. And being a 3 mana 2/3 flyer seems decent also. Like, it has a decent sized toughness.
Yeah, it doesn't die to Bone Crusher Giant. I think that's the benchmark for every creature in this format. Does it die to Bone Crusher Giant?
Yeah, like that's the part I like about it, because it just seems like any creature we play, as long as Bone Crusher Giant is in the format, if it's 2 toughness, it doesn't feel relevant to me.
Yeah, Exile's pointing out it doesn't change the priority of the spell being instant or sorcery. However, a lot of those pump spells tend to be instant anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have like multiple God's Willings, you can do it like that.
So the next one, which is really interesting, it's a creature in the first half and a planeswalker in the second half, kind of like Tybalt in the most recent set. But the first half is Milla, Crafty Companion, or 1 white 2/3 Fox. When an opponent attacks one or more planeswalkers you control, put a loyalty counter on each planeswalker you control. Whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or an opponent control or ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card. Then the second, the flip side of it, Luca's coming back. 4 red, 5 loyalty. +1, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. If a creature was discarded this way, draw 2 cards instead. -2, return target creature card from graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of your next upkeep. And -7, you get an emblem with whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to its power to any target.
This card's really good, I think. But
Yeah.
like, especially if you can take advantage of both sides, like just playing Luca on its own in like a red-based deck, I think it's a little pricey at 6 mana, but Shaper's Sanctuary stapled onto a creature, and then it plays well with all, like, you can put 4 of these in your deck, which is really nice, being legendary, because you can have both sides out.
Yep.
All the text seems relevant. It's not like the current Luca that's basically got 2 useless abilities in 1 combo piece.
Mm-hmm. I can see this being played in like a Super Friends deck, like some kind of 3 color or 4 color Super Friends deck, and then just maybe throw the other Luca in there too, just to have like some big dumb creature that you just exile into, and then if it dies, -2 on this Luca to bring it back.
The only thing with that approach is it would hit Mila on the flip too. So generally, if you do something like Dream Trawler, you want your only creatures to be the 4 of.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a cool card. I think I crafted up like something for early access in a Boros shell, kind of like an aggro. I think being someone there, like in Historic Shaper's Sanctuary, for those of you unfamiliar, it's a green mana, 1 mana. Whenever a creature gets targeted, you get to draw a card. So it's a great way when, like, you know, they eliminate you or they Heartless Act you, well, now you get a creature or you get a card out of it. So it helps it a bit.
The art of Luca on the normal version looks very boring compared to the alt art.
One looks extremely epic and the other one looks like he's got a hanger in his hand.
The fox art in both of them look really cool though. The alt art fox kind of looks almost realism. I think that's the right term, except for the glowing aura on it.
The only slip up they made on this card should have been a werewolf.
Yes, that would have been cool, but
it's a companion, I guess. So
yeah,
it's not a flip. Innistrad's coming. There will be a werewolf planeswalker.
But if you look at the original Luca, isn't there like a big giant wolf thing, or is it a fox?
I think it's like a cat or something,
Okay.
like a saber-toothed tiger.
Every time I hear Saber-Tooth Tiger, my mind goes to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Saber-Tooth Tiger. Okay. The next one I know a lot of people are excited about.
Yeah.
And I've
So
gotten some
Professor
comments
Onyx.
in my chat about this card. Not the
100
card itself, but
100% not a Liliana. Just disregard the Planeswalker text. This is Brock. You're at the first gym in Pewter City. You just have a Pikachu. You need to go catch a grass type because it's useless there. So Professor Onyx, aka Liliana in disguise. 6 mana, Planeswalker, 5 loyalty. It has the static ability of Magecraft. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you gain 2 life and your opponent loses 2 life. +1, you lose a life. Look at the top 3 cards, put 1 into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. -3, each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power that they control. And then -8, each opponent may discard a card. If they don't, they lose 3 life. Repeat this process 6 more times. So potentially 21 damage if they're empty-handed. Instantly, first thought is you got a new target to go with your Sultai Ultimatum piles.
I agree. I completely agree. But as we go through more of the cards, it does seem like this set does have enough things to counteract Sultai Ultimatum. But anyways, this card, I'm excited for it too. It seems like a really good Planeswalker overall. The art on it's really cool too. I did see Magic Twitter, I think, tweet out a picture of the alt art with Liliana having
mustache glasses.
Yes, I swear I thought I saw that somewhere.
Oh no, it was around. People were asking if they could buy that alt art.
That would be great if it was an actual thing that we get in Arena. I would play it.
Yeah, I think even the static, like this is a Planeswalker that can be your win con in something like a hard lock, like Esper control, Abzan control, even just like a big Golgari deck where you're just overwhelming them with removal.
That's the first thing I'm brewing.
Niche with drawing cards, it insulates your life total as well.
Mm-hmm.
You're naturally going to want to play instants and sorceries in this type of shell, so it works out really nicely.
And my first thought when I saw this was like some of the comments that are coming up in chat, but realist for Magic wise, actual Magic wise, so my first thought was like some kind of Golgari rock deck in standard, with this 2 or 3 of in the deck. It's just we're getting a lot of good Golgari spells that I am really hoping that Golgari can actually be a thing. So like I'm just excited to play the card itself. But moving on to the next card, which is we're getting Will and Rowan again, but they're both on 1 card. Rowan, Scholar of Sparks, 2 in a red, and Will, Scholar of Frost, 4 in a blue. So Rowan, static effect, instant and sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast. 2 loyalty, +1, Rowan, Scholar, Sparks deals 1 damage to each opponent. If you've drawn 3 or more cards this turn, she deals, is that 3?
Yeah.
3 damage each opponent instead. -4, you get an emblem with whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may pay 2 colorless. If you do, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for that copy. Then the Will side, instant sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast. +1, up to 1 target creature has base power and toughness of 0-2 till your next turn. And then -3, draw 2 cards. -7, exile up to 5 target permanents. For each permanent exiled this way, its controller creates a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token.
Yeah, I don't think the Will side is in any way playable. If this does see play, I think it's definitely the Rowan side. The cost reduction on instant sorceries is always interesting, especially with the introduction of a lot of storm-based cards in Historic as part of the Mystic Archives. The plus is the plus is basically just going to deal 1 damage. It's unlikely you're going to be drawing 3 cards a turn. It does ultimate very quickly, so if you can kind of hold off, just doubling your spells seems pretty good. Fringe play, I don't see it as like this huge standout unless it has a lot of like spell slinger style support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I agree. I do have some comments about the set overall, which we'll talk about like once we're done going over the cards that we're speaking of. But like the will side does interest me, but it just 5 mana. It seems like a lot.
It seems like a Planeswalker deck card.
Yeah, I think the static effect just is what people want for sure.
Between the 2 Planeswalkers you see on screen, Professor Onyx is worlds better.
Yes, definitely. But moving on to another Elder Dragon.
More dragons. Shadrix Silverquill. 5 mana, 2/5 flying double strike. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may choose 2. Each mode must target a different player. Very interesting clause there. So target player gets a 2/1 Inkling token, so it's a 2/1 flyer. Target player draws a card and loses a life. Target player puts a 1/1 counter on each creature they control. So this kind of rewards you for going wide, but there's also the advantage that it provides your opponent. So I guess if you're controlling their board, just keep putting 1/1 counters on their things. It's kind of an army in a can, but you don't really want to give your opponent cards, I would think. And it doesn't close out that, like, it's still a 2/5, even with double strike.
Yeah. Like all the dragons that we're getting in the set with the Elder Dragons, they're interesting. Like their high mana cost, but the abilities are interesting, and then the power and toughness are somewhat underwhelming. To me, except for the is it one, but
honestly, I think if this card just read like you can choose one of these a turn and
yes,
just didn't have the clause with your opponent, it would be infinitely better than
I agree.
your opponent.
Just like it just feels bad just giving your opponent a 2/1. Out of all those abilities, I would only want to give my opponent a 2/1, and I do not want them to have any of the other abilities.
Yeah, but then you're just giving them chump blockers every turn.
Yeah, that's the bad part. Cool art though.
All right, give it a number, Cleve.
Okay, yes, down for that. Two-Head Giant. Oh, Commander and Two-Head Giant. I can see that being interesting. Like just drawing a card in Commander, or putting counters on each creature that player controls. Those 2 parts are very powerful, for sure.
Yeah, there's also the politics angle.
Yes,
you're not necessarily rewarding the person directly sitting across from you.
That is a good thing to point out. Exile just pointed out it doesn't say opponent, it says different player. So if this is a 2v2 game, you could choose, like, if you're in a Giant, you can target your other the player that's playing with you. But the next one is another Elder Dragon. It's Simic. It's for 5 mana, it's 4/4. It has flying trample. Tanazir Wandrix. It's a flying trample. Whenever it enters the battlefield, double the number of +++ counters on target creature you control. And when it attacks, you may have the base power toughness of other creatures you control become equal to Tanazir Quandrix's power and toughness till end of turn. Which, that's interesting. I would picture just like maybe making it big and attacking.
Yeah, this is kind of more of an ode to the old Simic ways of just big, dumb, stompy creatures. I will say the full art, the thing I picture is the original Pokemon movie when Mewtwo's in the test tube and he's kind of just floating in the water.
Yes. like it's definitely Simic-y in the full art. Like when I picture Simic, I picture like Ravnica Simic. They're all like doing tests and stuff, and like growing. Like they're doing tests on like organisms and like just living things and just growing stuff. So that's what the alt art makes me think of.
Yeah, it's probably a build around. Like you need to have that in your theme. And then running up to our last mythic and the last of the Elder Dragons, Velocmus Lorehold, 7 mana, 5/5, Flying Vigilance Haste. When it attacks, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You can cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to its power. Put the rest at the bottom of your library. So I misread this card at first. So I built a Jeskai Luka deck with this into Alrund's Epiphany. That was kind of the theme of the deck, Infinite Turns. I think in Historic, because we are getting Time Warp is 5 mana. This can help you dig for your Time Warps. So you can basically, in theory, get 5 straight turns or 4 straight turns after this attacks with haste. So it is something interesting. What are your thoughts, Jaffer?
My thoughts with it is 7 mana. That's a lot. But like going 7 cards deep, that seems pretty decent as well. If you're higher end like a higher end Boros deck and not like an aggro deck, then maybe as a 1 or 2 of, but
I see this as a combo card. You're gonna have to polymorph it out. So there's there's Luca and there's the 4 mana one. So
I forgot about that card, the polymorph card.
Yeah, I think like that's the way you have to play this card. I don't think you can play it fairly.
Yeah, I agree.
I will say I will try to take all the turns in Historic. This plus Time Warp. Jeskai Dragons, let's go.
Let's do the Time Warp again.
So, hitting the rares now. So we'll probably just say quickly cover them because we're gonna get a bunch of bulk rares as well in here.
Yeah, I guess like if we see any that seem like bulk rares, we could just like mention just bulk rare and move on. And if the chat has like any discussion of like why we think it's bulk rare, they can bring it up and we can quickly talk about that. So, and honestly, a majority of these cards I have not seen, so I'm going to be taking a minute and reading some of these, like how I have been with the Mythics.
Yeah, so we should probably point out lessons are cards that can be kind of wished for in your sideboard. So certain cards will have an ability called Learn, and as part of the Learn ability, you can search for a card in your sideboard and put it into your hand. So it does add that kind of Fae of Wishes, Masterminds acquisition kind of niche.
Okay. But for this one, Academic Probation, 2 mana. You have to choose. Choose one of the modes. Choose a non-land card name. Opponents can't cast spells of the chosen name to your next turn. Choose target non-land permanent until on your next turn. It can't attack or blocks activated abilities. Can't be activated. This card I could see probably seeing some play.
Till next turn is the only thing that kind of holds it off. If it was like a Meddling Mage style effect, it definitely would as a hate card. You're basically just time walking your opponent on like an ultimatum or on a lethal attack potentially.
Which that could be relevant in standard. In Historic, I don't think so. Historic's just, it's too fast compared to standard.
Yeah, at most a niche card.
Yeah.
Accomplished Alchemist, 4 mana, 2/5 to ramp any color, and then it does have ramp X, where X is the amount of life you gained each turn. It's probably just win more. Yeah, honestly,
it's an EDH card.
Mana, yeah,
it's an EDH card to me. Like that's the only place I would want to see play. Like 4 mana for a dork, that's too much.
Something Isochron Scepter. You gain a bunch of life, make infinite mana. This seems like a combo piece in EDH.
Yeah. Archmage Emeritus, 4 mana, Metalcraft, and cast or copy an instant sorcery spell, draw a card. Commander.
Dies to Bone Crusher.
Yes. It's a commander card to me. I wouldn't play it, even if I played blue.
Yeah, it's kind of that theme of loot a card or just draw a card for spells, but too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually a third alternate art that's a buy a box promo that you see here. Card that could see some play for Augmenter Pugless, and if you want to flip the alternate side. So front side is a 3 mana 3/3 Trampler, which stats on its own is pretty good. Then if you control 8 or more lands, it becomes an 8/8 Trampler, which just good in the early game, fantastic in the late game, the evasion of trample. And then for 5 mana, you have a sorcery, choose target creature you control. Each other creature you control becomes a copy of that creature until end of turn, except those creatures aren't legendary if the chosen creature is legendary. Think of a Genesis Ultimatum deck with Terror of the Peaks, copy all your Terror of the Peaks. This can be ultimatum into that deck frequently has 8 or more lands.
Yeah. That I can picture too. Like the first half, like it's just a base creature without the clause of the 8 or more lands. It seems okay at that point. Like on turn 3 casting this, it's just a 3/3 Trampler. Seems okay. But once you get to that later game, that seems like it'd be decent. Or just ultimating into it. But it seems medium to me. Like it might be the first half's medium, second half of it seems okay.
It's green though.
Yes. But there's blue on it.
Yeah, but Rumty will put 4 of in a deck and you'll have it copied for week 1.
Oh. All right, moving on. Baleful Mastery, 4 mana. You may pay 1 of the black rather than pay this spell's mana cost. If you pay that, an opponent draws a card. Exile target creature or planeswalker. That seems like it might see play. Me.
So, Exile Planeswalker, very powerful. I think the optionality is good. The card draw is kind of a downside in a way. You're not 1-for-1ing anymore. You're 1-for-0ing in a way.
Mm-hmm.
The Exile can be relevant though with stuff like Annex, the 3/1 indestructible dude in mono white, any kind of effects like that.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But like late on turn 4, if you have no other play, just 4 mana for that ability to just exile the creature planeswalker, that is decent as well.
Vraska's Contempt saw a lot of play in its time in Standard.
Mm-hmm.
And this gives you if you need it in a pinch early, so you're not holding on to 4 mana removal.
It could be played in like a Dimir or Sultai deck that plays an R set as well. Of like on your opponent's turn after they draw, then just go ahead and just pay the 2 mana, and then they can't draw a card.
Yeah, this might see more play once Heartless Act and Eliminate rotate out.
Mm-hmm.
Because like we do have a glut of really effective 2 mana removal options right now, that the conditions aren't really deal breakers in a way.
The next one.
The next one's basically garbage. 3 mana, look at the top 6 cards of your library, put a creature among them into your hand, put the rest of the bottom in any order, gain 3 life. This card's like 1 to 2 mana, too much, just because they stapled gain 3 life on it. And because it could be tutored from your sideboard, this is probably a limited card.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Maybe if like mono red like had more burn spells, I guess.
But even then, you're just drawing a card. It's like Adventurous Impulse.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 mana
yeah,
more.
It's just more expensive Adventurous Impulse at that point. The next card when Noda becomes a thing, this will see play in there. 4 mana, it's hybrid Boros. 2/3 attacking creatures control of double strike.
Yeah, doesn't die to Bone Crusher Giant.
Yeah.
That's the common theme with all this.
Yep.
Does it die? Does your 3 or 4 mana spell die to Bone Crusher Giant? Yeah, this with Winota, kill them on the spot.
Yes, like, oh, I have 2 creatures attacking. Oh, I flipped into this. I flipped into Haktos. I have mana Embercleave on the Haktos or something. I definitely don't need to.
Like if you look at mono white aggro, like maybe not mono red, because like you have Embercleave and Embercleave's strictly better.
Yeah.
But in mono white, this being your topper, basically doing what Halvar does without the condition of having to be equipped.
Mm-hmm.
You often have evasive creatures, so like Luminarch Aspirant, make a big one. Like turn 2 Luminarch Aspirant, put them all on it. This on turn 4. Luminarch is 4/6, hits for 12 on turn 4.
Yeah. And then removing it.
Yeah. Exile points out this turns on Heliod by itself.
Yes, which could be very good. Like it could change mono white to be a Heliod based aggro deck. I know in best of 1 it kind of already is a thing, but best of 3 that could change the deck into plain Heliod.
It also doesn't make it as soft to Shadow's Verdict being 4 CMC.
Yes, definitely. But yeah, it definitely. But the bad part is you do have a chance to lose Heliod at that point to Shadow's Verdict.
It's fine. If you turn on your Heliod on turn 4 and it hits for 10, you're doing all right, because then you still have another 4 power the following turn.
Yep.
Exile's pointing out mono white clerics with Righteous Valkyrie and life linkers. I think you gave me an idea for early access. We take into the skies.
Moving on to the next one, we got a Vampire Warlock.
Callous Blood Mage, 3 mana, 2/1, enters the battlefield. Choose 1, create a pest. So 1/1 creature, when it dies, gain a life, draw a card, lose a life, or exile target player's graveyard. Low key, this is going to be very good in Historic with Collector Company decks. Graveyards are a huge part of Historic, so being able to potentially instant speed exile. The card draw, at the very least, it replaces itself. The pest is fine if you want to go wide in like a sacrifice deck. I think this can see play.
Yeah, especially like playing against Arcanist, or even Cat Oven. If they don't have Oven on the field, they move to combat before they attack. You can just flash that in, or I'm not flashing Coco, or just end step. Obviously, just exiling Kroxa from the graveyard will be a big thing.
I think it's like it's like Knight of Autumn. It's like a Rex Sage almost.
A sideboard card.
Yeah, you can have fringe cases, but at the very least, it'll probably never be a dead card, because at the very worst case, it's a 3 mana 2/1 that's drawn you a card or made you another body.
Mm-hmm. The next card, without reading anything on it so far, it screams Commander at me, just seeing the mana cost in it. Kodai Vok-Iferis Codex?
Yeah.
It's a name.
It's Cody.
3 mana, 1/4 construct. You can't cast permanent spells. Why? 4 tap, add Wooburg, and when you cast your next spell this turn, exile cards on top of your library until your exile an instant or sorcery card lesser mana value. Saying mana value just feels weird. Until end of turn, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put each other card exiled this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. I don't want to play this.
There's a lot of words here.
Yes. And people complained about questing beast when it first came out.
That just usually meant you're dead. This just seems like a lot more steps.
Yeah, I don't like it.
It's probably not something I'll play.
Yeah, I don't. Would it even see constructed? I'm not constructed. Limited play,
4 mana to filter for 5 mana.
and you can't even cast a
You cast your
permanent
next
spell.
spell this turn. Exile cards from top of your. Maybe if there's like a storm spell deck.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Storm, for historic, because like we're getting some Storm cards on the what are they called again? Archive cards.
Mystical Archive, yeah.
And there's one card that a lot of people are arena zoomers are not gonna know, and they're gonna think it's dumb if Storm is broken. Tendrils of Agony.
Yeah. If this sees play, it's gonna be in some sort of combo deck.
Yeah.
I don't think if you're just, casting a spell per turn, it's not gonna do too much.
Mm-hmm. Art's very cartoony. The next one has Liliana on the art.
Confront
Very interesting.
the past. Professor Onyx looking at her old self.
Is that Gideon behind her?
Yeah, it's the War of the Spark when Gideon throws himself in the way.
I wonder if I'm kind of sidestepping real quick. I wonder if this set is supposed to be taking place years after War of the Spark happened, like in the lore.
Why Gideon of all people? Why save me? Throwback. So this is a black X card. It's a lesson, so it can be tutored. Choose one. Return target planeswalker with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Remove twice X loyalty counters from target planeswalker and opponent controls. Could see play. Good in control mirrors if you were trying to win through planeswalkers. Mm-hmm. It both serves as reanimation for planeswalkers on your side, or can be used as removal. So an interesting card there.
Yeah, it's gonna be because of that reason. It's more of a sideboard card. Then,
yeah,
I'm excited to see if we do get more archetypes after this is printed. I'm hoping we do. But the next one,
best name in the set.
What was that?
Best name in the set.
Conspiracy theorist. So 1 in a red, 2/2. When attacks, you may pay 1 and discard a card. If you do, draw a card. That ability seems good. Whenever you discard 1 or more non-land cards, you may exile 1 of them from your graveyard. If you do, you may cast it this turn. The only thing that I'm worried of is Bone Crusher.
Yeah, but think in the place of Rimrock Knight.
Yeah,
Rimrock is a terrible card that just saw play because there was no better 2-drops.
Mm-hmm.
In Historic, Burning Tree into this. Just confirms that the Shuffler is rigged.
Yeah, and just like in mono red, filtering your hand, like discard. I'll pay 1 to discard this basic mountain and draw a new card. That will definitely help out for sure.
Well, even discard a card and then cast that card, but still get another card in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Exile's pointing out in chat, in cycling is a discard effect. So even if you don't use it for its ability, the first half, the discard allows you to cast it afterwards.
Okay, yeah. So have this, attack with it, have 5 mana available, discard the Zenith Flare. I know that probably doesn't matter. No, that would be dumb. That would be dumb. You should just be casting at that point. I don't know why I would think that.
I don't think you've played much cycling, have you?
I did when it was first the deck, and that's why I played for 2 seasons to get me to Mythic, and I hate playing the deck now. So the next card, I am super stoked about it.
It's Golgari.
Yes.
So Culling Ritual. 2 black green, 4 mana. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Also, we should probably point out mana value is the new name for converted mana cost.
Which is weird.
And then for each permanent destroyed this way, you add either black or green mana. So this is an interesting card against low to the ground aggro. It can potentially pay for itself, if not even ramp you, depending on the board state. Think against cycling. We were just speaking of that. They have a board of all their little angel or fairies. Their probable alliance tokens. Kill 10 things, ramp 10 mana.
Yeah, like I think it'll be a pretty decent card. I think it's gonna be sideboard based on the meta, how the meta looks like. So maybe if mono red, mono white, and cycling are still big in standard, this could be a main board card, like a 2 of or something like that, and then a dead card if you're up against another match. But or another deck, I mean. But I think it'll be for sure see some play. Just destroying all those things, getting all that mana, and just say they had 10 things. Oh, I got Liliana on the field now. Okay. Like, I think it'll be a pretty good card, especially against like an historic, against like maybe some Gruul matchups, depending on like what their board state looks like. Mono red auras, just to at least get like 2 turns out of it, of casting this and then having 2 turns to live, because they have to rebuild then. I think it'll probably see some play in those.
Question in chat is, can you select if you say kill 5 things, do you get to filter your choice of black or green, like 2 black, 3 green? The way it's worded is a bit ambiguous. I don't know.
The way it's worded, add black or green for each permanent destroyed this way, I think it's going to be one or the other. That's something that we'll have to look into.
Yeah. We'll cast it and see.
That's pretty much what's probably going to happen. So the next one, Culmination of Studies. It's an Izzet card. X blue red sorcery. Exile top X cards to your library. For each land card exiled this way, create a treasure token. For each blue card exiled this way, draw a card. For each red card exiled this way, Culmination of Studies deals 1 damage each opponent. I feel mixed about it.
It's not that good. Maybe if it was instant speed. For each land card exiled this way, create a treasure token. Yeah, that's not that good. There's better things to do if you have that much mana to really pay off.
Yeah, like maybe just another EDH card at that point, or it could be a limited card, I guess. Seeing the art and looking at the bottom right of the card, it is something to do with the story though. Which I am interested to find out what the story is going to be like for Strixhaven. I actually might take the time and read about it this time.
Shoot me over the Coles notes after.
What was that?
Shoot me over the Coles notes after. I feel like we've flip-flopped what we should. I should be presenting all these Izzet cards, and you should be getting all the Golgari ones. But it seems like it's the other way around.
Yeah, every time we get to an Izzet card, I get it, and then we get to Golgari, you get it.
You're just looking at blue like an instant speed card.
If you want to, we can flip it. No.
Sure. This is a Jaffer card.
Okay. So Demogoth Titan. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's a demon, 11/10, 4 mana hybrid Golgari. First thing that pops in my mind when looking at the art, it reminds me of Kozilek, like all the things like the little things that Kozilek, like the extra arms, and just like has some kind of like moss growing on it. It's a demon though. Whenever it attacks or blocks, sacrifice a creature.
Yeah, the ability is kind of like an ode to Annihilator with the sacrifice on attack trigger.
Yeah. The text.
So this can be. It's a big vanilla. With pests, you have synergy to allow it to attack in.
My mind goes to Gigantosaurus. Like everybody thought, like, not everybody, like I myself and some people at my LGS I used to go to all the time, thought like Gigantosaurus was gonna see some playing standard. It never did. If it did, it died right away. So my mind goes to that. I don't think it's gonna see play. If it does, it's gonna be super fringe, and maybe it'll be just played in like a fling deck. Like play it, then fling it right away.
There is the instant sack when target creature dies, create that many pests equal to its power.
Oh, that thing. Maybe there could be a deck of that. Just get 11 1/1s. They have flying too, right?
No, they have when it dies you gain life.
Oh, okay, okay. But still, just having 11 1/1s, that might be okay. And I believe that card's instant speed.
Yeah.
But the flavor text on it, of course, it offered you power. Demons always do. But trust me, the sweeter the prize, the more ruinous the prize. Professor Onyx. So Liliana's talking from her experience in that quote.
It's an interesting one. Alrighty. Devastating Mastery. 2 white. This gives you the option to pay 4 mana rather than its converted mana cost. So if you pay full price, it's planar cleansing, destroy all permanents for 6 mana. If you pay 4 mana, an opponent gets to choose up to 2 non-land permanents and return it to their hand. We don't really see planar cleansing style effects if you're going hard control, but usually with those, they're not the best just because you usually want to win for, like with planeswalkers. So this kills your own planeswalkers.
Yeah, like I get this picture just with the mana cost. My mind seeing the mana cost goes to commander, seeing the alternate mana cost. I just see it as another board wipe. That control might play, but it doesn't seem that great. I'll just play Doomscar or Shattered Sky instead.
Yeah.
The next one is a Simic card. Double major. It's instant, just costs Simic. Copy target creature spell you control, except if it isn't legendary. If the spell is legendary. Okay.
Double Vorinclex.
Yeah, I got 2 Vorinclexes. Does that double the triggers then on your side of like double the counters?
I think it quadruples. Because it's X2. They see each other. So the first one doubles, and then it doubles again. So it's X to the 2.
Gamer ultimatum with this. Just copy your Tear the Peaks before you ultimatum. Like on your opponent's end step, copy your Tear the Peaks and then go ultimatum on your turn.
Yeah, it's probably a win more card, but
probably.
There will be a screenshot somewhere on Twitter.
Yes, there's going to be.
A card that could see some play. Draconic Intervention. 4 mana as additional cost to cast this spell. Exile an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. Draconic Intervention deals X damage to each non-dragon creature, where X is the exiled card's mana value. And then you exile those creatures. So we saw the 8 mana Magus, whatever the Izzet card.
Yeah.
You can discard it for treasure and then deal 8 damage to all non-dragons. So we saw Izzet dragons playing Storm's Wrath at one point, which isn't great because it kills your own dragons.
Mm-hmm.
This allows you to have that same kind of 4 mana board wipe effect, which those decks generally need because there are struggles against aggro-based decks, but it keeps your dragons alive.
Yeah, I could picture like just seeing this card now. I could picture Izzet tempo coming back, but just more dragon based now with the new Elder Dragon, this card, probably some other cards we haven't seen yet going in this list of cards.
Yeah.
So I agree that we'll see play. Next one, Dragon's Guard Elite, 1 green 2/2. Magecraft. When you cast a copy into the source spell, put ++ counter on it. It just seems like a bulk rare to me, in my opinion.
So this one's interesting if you are playing like a heroic deck, because this puts a counter on it every time you cast an instant or sorcery, so it gets bigger. So in something like Feather, you could see Return to Naya Feather. It is a build around card. You do need the supporting. In and of itself, it's not that great. But if you do have kind of that heroic shell, I think it can be good, because those heroic decks used to have the 1 mana card that had a similar effect. That it, whenever it got targeted, this is just whenever you cast. So even if you cast like a burn spell or a removal spell, it also triggers on it.
And it also has like a alternate art for buy box too.
All right. Well, the best thing about that alternate art is now we're back to 2 per row.
This next one interests me, kind of.
So dramatic finale. Either 4 black, 4 white, or hybrid. Creature tokens you control get +1/1. So in this theme, you have Inklings. There's spirits as well, something like Clarion Spirit. Whenever 1 or more non-token creatures you control die, create a 2/1 Inkling. This ability triggers only once per turn. I think that last line really hinders how great it would be. Thinking against like a board wipe deck. Notably, though, a lot of the removal and the board wipes in this format are exile based, so it gets around this die condition. So it probably will not see much play, at least at this juncture. If Doomscar moves into being the premier board wipe, I can see maybe.
Yeah.
As like a Doomscar insurance.
The first part of it, creature tokens, you control get +1/+1. That's what interests me. If tokens were like a legitimate strategy or deck in the standard, then this could probably see play, I think. But I agree. Like board wipes
You have
just
cards like Glorious Anthem that don't see play for 3 mana, and that's not restricted to just tokens either.
true. It has seen French play in some tournament play, but ladder play, I haven't seen it do anything.
Yeah, just the 4 with his mono white deck.
The next one, Dream Strix. It's a Bird Illusion, 2 blue, 3/2. It becomes a target spell, sacrifice it. When it dies, learn. You may reveal a lesson card you own from outside the game and put it into your own hand, or discard a card to draw a card. It seems interesting to me as a card.
Yeah, if Learn ever picks up, it could be, but dies to Bone Crusher.
True.
Oh no, actually, but if they Bone Crusher it, you sacrifice it, so it fizzles.
Yes,
so
that was my
Bone Crusher.
Yeah, that was gonna be my counter argument to that, because like, yeah, you can kill my 3/2 flyer, but you're gonna lose your Bone Crusher. It's good for good, and I get a card on my sideboard to replace this in my hand. Yeah. So maybe it might see play, but it could just be
honestly dependent on how good the lesson cards are. But
yeah,
in draft it seems good.
And none of the lesson cards really stood out to me yet.
Nah, they're all overpriced thus far.
The next one.
Now this is a card.
Ifrit's back.
Ifrit Flame Painter. 4 mana, 1/4 double strike. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast instant or sorcery card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. Exile that card if you cast it. This plus the Is It cards, the 8 mana one that you discard for 2. So turn 2, discard it, make a treasure. Turn 3, cast Ifrit. Turn 4, if you can get through. It's an interesting kind of card. With Alrund's Epiphanies, Alrund's Exiles, though, I think. Time Wipe doesn't. The Time Warp doesn't.
Yeah, Time Warp doesn't. Alrund's does.
So it does have some pretty high upside. You do need to get through. Slap an Embercleave on it.
Well, also, like, if you were forced to discard Alrund's Epiphany or an Ultimatum, then it's just target then.
Yeah.
But good point out in the chat. There's no evasion on it. Besides, the only innovation on it is it dies to black removal easily. In order to kill it with red removal, you're gonna have to use 2 burn spells. Well, the next card is an Is It card, so
let me take. It's got blue spells. Let me. So this is.
a lot of words.
It'll turn on Perforos. 4 mana, 4/4 Magecraft. Here's an encyclopedia. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, choose a target creature you control until end of the turn. If this creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead. And when you exile it, you get a 4/4. So it's kind of like damage or like removal insurance. If you're playing like a tempo game, they try to kill your spell, you could potentially upgrade it. Probably won't see much play. Casting cost is fairly restricted. At 4 mana, the dragon's a lot better.
Mm-hmm. It interests me that they made an orc a wizard. Like, that's the only thing that I have to say of it, really. And it's just kind of odd, like the orc on it is just like like sitting and kneeling on the elemental thing, oddly, with doing a weird handstance.
Well, we can say it turns on party.
Yeah. And then next one, I know another streamer, Hearsay MTG, is super excited about this one. Elite Spellbinder, 2 and a white 3/1. I believe PVDDR got to spoil or preview this card on the last day of the championship. It's a flying human. When it enters the battlefield, look at target opponent's hand. You may exile a non-land card from it. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may play it. A spell cast this way costs 2 more to cast. Actually, no, I'm sorry. That was a different card I was thinking of that Hearsay. I'm super excited about it. Yeah. But PVDDR did get the preview this one.
It's an interesting tax card.
It is.
Like, it's making a board wipe. Like, taking it out of their hand, making it cost 2 more.
Mm-hmm.
Could be meaningful.
Definitely. Oh, even says PVDR's name on it. World Championship. Yeah, okay.
That's his. When you win the Mythic Champion or the World Championship, there'll be the Jaffer card, blue hair and all.
Gotta get there first.
Next card's complete, like bulk rare, just double. It's just one of the generic big pump spells. I think we can pass on that one.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. It looks cool though.
Yeah. Fervent Mastery, 5 mana. You can pay 4 instead. If 4 was paid, an opponent discards any number of cards and draws that many. Search your library for 3 cards, put them into your hand, shuffle, then discard 3 cards. It's a weird gamble. The only thing I could think of is like Past and Flame piles, but just seems really like a random card. Again, this might be some sort of combo graveyard deck, but on its own, not that great.
Mm-hmm. I agree. The next one, it's a Boros card. Run the first half, white on the second half. Flame Scroll, Celebrant, 1 in a red, 2/1. It's a human shaman. When an opponent activates an ability that isn't a mana ability, Flame Scroll, Celebrant deals 1 damage to that player. 1 in a red. It gets +2/+0 till end of turn. I like the flavor text, stand up and fight. It screams Cruel Celebrant to me on the first half. Just not as good and dies easier.
I wish it was 2 toughness so it didn't die to devil activations in Historic.
Yes.
I'm trying to find a card for mono red that just doesn't auto die to Catovan.
Yeah. Cruel Celebrant would be one, but that's 2 toughness, I believe.
Yeah.
But the second half of this, it's Revel in Silenced, 2 white, white. It's instant. Your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities. Your opponents can't cast spells or activate Planeswalker loyalty abilities this turn. exile, revel, and silence. So this is just basically silence almost,
But
kind
more
of.
niche.
I don't see revel and silence being relevant really, unless if it's like one of those one-off situations.
It'll blow out an ultimate of Teferi once, but for the most part, if you're casting that as a control player, you're happy that they spent their turn spending 2 mana.
Yeah. So wait,
So
with this, can you, if when they go to activate the fairy or a planeswalker, can you in response do this? No, never mind. It was already in the stack. They already activated their planeswalker. So the ability has to go through.
You have to do it on like upkeep.
Okay.
Or in between phases.
All right. And then the next one.
So we're getting the Tango line, no, fast lines.
The show lands. I think that's what they're called. Last we saw them was in the last time we were in Innistrad.
Yeah, so these are generally more suited towards aggro style decks. Just to have untapped duels. They're not super reliable because you still need to have some number of mountains or plains or islands or mountains. But you generally will play these in more aggressively slanted decks, which is good because a lot of the duels right now in the format are always come into play tap. So it naturally leads to more control-based strategies.
Triomes will definitely help out with this too.
Yeah.
So just basically we got the other half that we didn't get originally. So we got the Boros one. No, we got Kogari. What's the other?
And Orzhov.
Okay. Yeah. So like those ones are gonna be great to have. Which the next one is Gnarled Professor. Treefolk Druid. Just laughing at the name. It's 2 green trample. When you cast Gnarled Professor, enters the battlefield. I'm sorry, when it enters the battlefield, learn. So it's a card you get lesson out.
Remember when 5/4 tramplers were good for 4?
Yeah, and then we get Eldraine, and it's like, oh, I got a 3 mana 4/3.
Here's my 3 mana 5/5, but it also makes a 1/1.
Yes.
Yeah.
I miss Steel Leaf Champion in Standard.
So here's Hall of Oracles, which is your token colorless land that does very fringe things that will see no play whatsoever.
Limited probably, but maybe not. The next one, Illuminate History, 2 red, sorcery lesson. Discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards. Then if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. I do not picture this scene play outside of limited.
No, kind of going with the theme of lessons just not being very good.
Yeah.
You pay a premium to be able to access them, but they all seem overcosted by 1 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
So blue card, Ingenious Mastery. Blue 2x. You can choose to pay 3 as opposed. So it's a 3 mana, draw 3, but your opponent gets 2 treasures and they scry 2. Or if the cost wasn't paid, you can pay, draw X cards. So it's like divination that ramps and setups your opponent's draw, or like better than divination. Or you can just draw X and kind of draw a bunch of cards. So you're really only seeing that same for X equals 3, so 6 mana, kind of pricey. Maybe just as a combo card, if you just want to draw cards for 3 mana and you don't really give your opponent a turn after that, like all in that turn.
Yeah, like besides, I don't think it would see play. My thought right away was like control, and then they have counter magic. But why would you give your opponent more mana in that moment?
If it was instant, maybe, so you can do it on your end step, like on your opponent's end step. But
yeah,
I think it's one of those, if you're not giving your opponent another turn and you just need to draw 3 cards for 3 mana, it's a pretty good rate.
Mm-hmm. The next one's a Simic card. It's green on the first half and blue on the second half, which is interesting. It turns from an elf druid to a blue wizard. Or you can cast one or the other. The elf druid's at Kiani, Bean Substance. It's a 2/2. Tap, exile top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, put a study counter on it. 4 and a green, created 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Plus the plus counter on it for each different mana value on non-land cards you own in exile with study counters on them. Right away in the first half to me. The blue half, Ibrahim,
Maybe.
Dean of Theory. It's a blue wizard 3/3. That's flying. X blue tap, exile top X cards of your library, put a study counter on each of them. Then you may put a card you own in exile with a study counter on it into your hand. I just don't like either.
It's got a lot of words that don't do much.
Yeah. Commander, again, to me.
Yeah. One that might see constructed play is Leonin Lightscribe. 2 mana, 2/2 Magecraft. Whenever you cast instant or sorcery, creatures you control get +1/1. So think of all those pump spells. If you have a go wide board, pump one of your things, all your things get a pump. So it's an interesting card there, and a little bit more of an aggressive deck. It's really with that theme. I think it's just depending on how good the combat spells are to really make it worthwhile to play that strategy.
Yeah, and it's a cat.
It's a cleric.
It's a cat cleric. It's interesting. It's another 2 mana creature that, 2 mana creatures are always nice. The next one, we're getting into a command, the Boros command. 3 red white, choose 2, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Creatures you control get +1/+0, gain indestructible and haste on a turn. Laureled command deals 3 damage to any target player gains 3 life. And the last part, sacrifice permanent and draw 2 cards.
This one's interesting. The converted, the mana cost is pretty high for it being in an aggro deck. You also don't want to necessarily rely on it as a board wipe insurance. Again, exile being the predominant type of removal.
Mm-hmm.
The instant's nice, but it's weird too, because I guess control, you don't really want to sack a land to be able to draw 2 cards.
I think it's gonna be more for creature based Boros decks, or Naya, but it does seem like a lot of mana at the same time. But the modes aren't bad. They just, I don't know. I think I would try it in a Boros creature based deck, but I don't think I'd be completely happy with it.
Yeah, at 4 mana, I think we're a lot more inclined to play it. At 5, it's a little iffy.
Yeah, maybe as a singleton or 2 at most. I do find the art funny though, of how there's a little dwarf shooting from a scroll.
It's the whole gang. Got elephant. You got the bazooka. Something flying in the background. So we have Manifestation Sage. So wrapping up the hybrid. Kind of been joking that it turns on some of the gods, but this turning on Thassa with its ability is actually really reasonable. It's a 4 mana 2/2 that when it enters the battlefield, you get to create a token that is power and toughness, or it's an X with counters on it equal to the amount of cards in your hand. Thassa can blink it, so you can keep getting multiple copies and get more fractals. So it's an interesting card in that type of blink archetype.
Mm-hmm. The only bad part about it, that's the Bone Crusher, like a lot of cards.
Yeah, and if it's a top deck late game when you don't have cards in hand, it doesn't actually make tokens.
Yeah. It is interesting though. A lot of these like just the hybrid cards are pretty interesting. Um, Next card's a blue card.
Okay, so let me take this because then you have a Golgari land. So multiple choice, blue and an X. If X is 1, scry 1 and draw a card. So 2 mana, draw a card. X is 2, choose a player. They return a creature they control to its owner's hand. If X is 3, you create a 4/4. If X is 4 or more, you get to do all the above. So 5 mana, draw, bounce, create a token. I think like the going rate for all those is pretty fair.
Yeah. I don't have much to say except for like I like the name and the mana cost. The mana value. The mana value on it is interesting. Like at first when I saw the mana cost, I thought it was like a different kind of opt when I saw like the name and the mana cost, and then just like the first part made me think of opt as well.
Yeah.
But interesting.
If it was an instant, then it'd be really good.
Oh yeah. The next one, I really like the art on these lands. It's a Golgari show land, like it's Golgari.
Yeah.
The card after that though, it is a black human warlock. That's 3/3. I think it's a bulk rare.
Yeah. It's just enabling the theme, but if you're doing that each turn for 4 mana, you're probably losing.
Mm-hmm. But it does look like a really clean, cool looking art on it.
Yeah.
If I just saw the
potential for EDH, like Entomb stapled onto a creature.
Yeah, definitely. I do think like with a lot of the newer sets, they are being kind of generous to, like, it's not bad that they're doing this, but they're being generous to EDH players. Like they're printing more EDH playable cards, which is cool, because that shows that they're wanting to support more than just standard with their base sets now.
Yeah. Don't forget about Brawl.
That too. I always forget about that. Do you want to get the next one?
Yeah, Pestilence Cauldron. It's a flip Golgari card. Front side, 3 mana artifact. Discard a card, you create a pest. For a mana, each opponent mills cards equal to the number of life you gain this turn. And then 4 mana, exile target card from a graveyard. Draw a card, or exile 4, draw a card. Could be kind of weird inverse tech for rogues when you do it yourself, but seems kind of bad versus escape. Restoration Burst, which is the flip side. 5 mana, return up to 2 target creature, land, or planeswalker cards from your graveyard to your hand. This just seems like a really overcosted build around card.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Like it would be more. I think it'd be more on theme and better if it was like return to the battlefield instead.
Yeah.
But for 5 mana, return 2 things to the battlefield in standard, that would be a bit too powerful, I think.
Agreed.
The next one is another flip card. Boros. Plarg, Fiend of Chaos. 2/2, as the Bone Crusher. Tap, discard a card, draw a card. Foreign red tap, reveal cards on top of your library till you reveal a non-legendary, non-land card with mana value 3 or less. May pass that card without paying its mana cost. Put all revealed cards that not cast its way onto the your library in a random order. That ability seems maybe alright if it gets to live. Just 5 mana to do that. That seems like a lot. But Augusta. Augusta, Dean of Order. 2 and a white, 1/3. Other tap creatures control get +1/+0. Oh, that seems pretty good. Other untap creatures control get +1 whenever you attack. Untap each creature you control, then tap any number of creatures you don't or you control. What? Wait, whenever you attack, untap each creature you control, then tap any number of creatures you control.
Pseudo vigilance.
Okay. All right.
And then you can play around where you want your creature to have more toughness or more power.
Yeah.
Chat's pointing out this with Magda, with your dwarfs to make treasure tokens. It's an interesting card.
That is.
It's Doctor Strange. That's all I see in the art.
Yeah. Oh, so like with oh yeah, that does seem interesting with Magda. Just make more treasure and then just cast more things after combat.
Yeah. So next is Poet's Quill, which is probably unplayable 2-mana equipment that equips for 2 and gives +1/1 and lifelink and also learns. The thing that we've learned is that the learn cards are pretty bad.
Yeah, it costs too much or just seem odd. We got some commands coming up. We got 2 of them.
Yeah, let me take, you take Simic?
Sure.
Prismari command or Bad Electrolyze. 3-mana instant, shock something, draw 2, discard 2, create a treasure token or destroy target artifact. Nowhere near as good as Colgan's command, not the worst command in the world. Could be decent. Like, I think in Historic, if you can blow up an oven and like shock a Woe Strider, you're coming out pretty far ahead.
Yeah. That seems like the only good part of it. The art makes me think of like a coral reef in the background.
Yeah, like the color scheme.
It just looks like plants too, like under the sea. And then all of a sudden you see electricity at the top right.
See as it way. Steampunk.
And then next we got Quandrix command, 3 mana, use 2, instant. Return target creature planeswalker to its owner's hand. Counter target artifact or enchantment spell. Put 2 +1/+ counters in target creature. Target player shuffles up to 3 target cards from their graveyard into their library.
It doesn't really do anything meaningful.
Yeah. I guess.
It's a bad tempo play.
The
only thing, Hengin and Scalds, like the Sagas it counters.
Yeah, and Embercleave. So like, if say you're playing against mono red, and you go to block, and then you go to Embercleave, you counter the Embercleave and put a counter on another creature to be able to kill theirs. That's the only other good part about it. See.
Yeah, like I think Prismari is a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
It's more proactive. Radiant Scroll Wielder is pretty lackluster. 4 mana, 2/4 instant sorcery spells you control have lifelink. You can exile at the beginning of your upkeep, exile an instant or sorcery at random from your graveyard. You can cast it for the turn. So kind of playing into the self mill. Pretty bad, I think.
Yeah. It makes me think of the buy box promo from Dominaria and the static effect.
Yeah, that was like $40 card because it was so hard to get.
Yeah, and it barely saw play.
Yeah.
The only thing I like about this card really is the art. I like how the cleric in the art is using a scroll as a shield. Or is it a shield that they're doing?
Yeah.
So it's like absorbing like some kind of flame, and then they're healing themselves. It looks like
the most buffed magical dwarf.
The next one we got a Phoenix. It seems like every set we're getting a Phoenix now, which is kind of cool. 3 and a red, 2/2. Fine haste. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, learn. As long as it's in your graveyard, if you would learn, you may instead turn Retriever Phoenix to the battlefield. So I guess if any of the other cards that do have learn, instead of, like, maybe if you're playing red, this probably would just definitely be better to get a 2-mana, or a 2/2 flying haste back.
I don't know, this card seems really bad. Even like you're jumping through hoops and playing bad cards to get a 2/2 back.
True. But also, like, one thing we gotta think of, like, everything, I think a lot of things seem underwhelming right now because of Eldraine.
I know, but if you look at like Chandra's Phoenix being a 3-mana that triggers whenever your opponent was dealt damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Someone point out it's a bad arc like Phoenix.
This next card I'll take. Rush Rebirth. It's Golgari. Instant. Choose target creature. When this creature dies this turn, search your library for a creature card with lesser mana value. Put onto the battlefield, then shuffle. My thought right away is if there's some good 1-drop, play this in Jund with Kroxa. Go to cast Kroxa. Interspond or hold priority to the sack trigger. Just do Rush Rebirth targeting Kroxa. Maybe against like a cyber card against like control decks that have board wipes. When they go to wipe the board, just cast this targeting one of your creatures, and after it dies, just you get another creature to replace it. It seems pretty good, I think.
Yeah, so notably you can choose any target creature, so you can target your opponent's creatures, kill it, you get a creature out of it.
That I didn't notice actually.
It's with lesser mana value, so the Kroxa line, you would only get a 1 CMC.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kill something. So like, kill their 4-drop, get like a Clothis out of your deck. Seems pretty good. Or like just kind of toolboxy.
Yeah.
Seems pretty sweet.
It does. There's another Golgari card, it's 2 mana, that I'm excited about as well. We haven't come across it yet though. The next one seems interesting, kind of.
Yeah, so Sedgemoor Witch, 3 mana, 3/2 menace, ward. So this is another ability we actually haven't come up to at this point. But it's kind of that Terror the Peaks ability. If you want to target it, you have to pay 3 life, otherwise it gets countered. And then it has Magecraft. Whenever you cast instant or sorcery, you get to create pests. So the combo that I saw is if you go this into Yarshan, your opponent can't pay life, so they technically can never target Sedgemoor Witch. Which is kind of cool. But otherwise it dies to Bone Crusher.
Yeah. Feels like everything that like we've been going over like just dies to Bone Crusher. So many things. The next one, Selfless Lift Weaver. It's 2 white. Exile Selfless Glyph Weaver. Creatures you control gain indestructible till end of turn. It's 2/3, so it doesn't die to Bone Crusher, which is nice. Dead Vanity. Oh, Deadly Vanity, sorry. 5 black, black, black. Sorcery. Choose a creature or planeswalker, then destroy all other creatures and planeswalkers.
I think you're playing it on the front side as a Selfless Savior. Not Selfless Spirit. The modern one, or the Pioneer one. I think this card gets better once Extinction Event leaves the format.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, as long as we have an exile effect board wipe, it just doesn't seem that great right now.
Yeah. Semester's End, which makes you think, oh, look, Collected Company. But it's basically a mass blink effect. um, at the beginning of the next end step. So you could kind of create a Yorian style effect, blink everything, and then they all come back with 1/1 counters on it. You can also target planeswalkers, so it's a good kind of effect in that fashion.
Yeah. Sorry, I was distracted by a cat. um, yeah, that seems pretty decent. The art looks kind of cool too. Like they're celebrating that their semester's over. The next one's another flip card. Shape.
Shaley, something or another.
I'm just gonna know Shaley, Dean of Radiance. It's a bird cleric. 1/1 dies to Bone Crusher. It's flying vigilance. You tap it, put a counter on each creature that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. Then the other side is a human warlock for 2 black, 4/4. You put a 1/1 counter on another creature, then Ambrose, Dean of Shadow, deals 2 damage to that creature. Interesting. Whenever a creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it dies, draw a card.
It's like a slow aspirant. Lets you go wide, but kind of wants you to build a, like, keep committing to the board to get the counters, which just kind of opens you up to a board wipe.
Mm-hmm.
And typically you'd play this in like a weenie strategy, so the 2 damage can be quite impactful.
The Dean of Shadow makes me think of like some, like just art. It looks like some kind of like slide person that, I don't know, like he's gonna lie to you no matter what he says, even if he doesn't mean to, I guess, just to get his way of anything.
Do what you need to do. All right, so we have another of the show lands in Shine Shadow Snarl. So we've kind of covered those, so we can jump ahead.
It's some more Orzhov cards.
So this is the cool emo kids command, Silver Quill command. This one's actually pretty good. So this, we've had the theme of targeting your own creatures. Well, this targets, gives them 3/3 and flying, so evasion. It also reanimates a creature card with 2 mana or less. It lets you draw a card, and it can force your opponent to sack a creature. So far, I think this one's the best command.
Yeah, I agree. The art is just kind of cool too. It's like they're showing, like, my mind, like, we're here to fuck shit up.
Yeah. We just gotta get you a trench coat, and then you can be in this art.
I must have dyed my hair black then.
Yeah.
Next one, Silver Quill Silencer. This one's pretty cool. It's an Orzhov creature. It just costs white and black, 3/2. Enters battlefield, choose a non-land card name. Whenever an opponent casts a spell with the chosen name, they lose 3 life and you draw a card.
Meddling Mage vibes, art and all.
Yeah, definitely. Who did Meddling Mage art? Not the original, the newer one. Like, that I'm interested in now. But if humans can become a thing in Historic, this definitely was see playing there.
Todd Lockwood. No, different artist.
Maybe they took I can picture them like taking Meddling Mage like as a reference for the art style.
Yeah.
I think this will see play, even though it dies to Bone Crusher easily. Like it does die to a lot of removal, but I think it will see play.
Yeah, at the very least, it's a 2 mana 3/2.
Yeah.
That could potentially draw you a card. and then bolt them for 3.
Mm-hmm. And you get, yeah, and just get a card to replace it's pretty good too.
Yeah. Yeah, the next card's garbage. We can probably skip it.
The bulk. Strict Proctor is one that yes, hi. That's the one that I know Here's MTG was excited about. It's 1 in a white, 1/3 flying. It's a spirit as well. And a cleric. So whenever a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability to trigger, counter the ability unless its controller pays 2 colorless. So I have this. I play what's that land called? This is the why you
Lotus Field.
Yes, play Lotus Field. Cool. It enters untapped, and I don't have to sack lands. I believe it enters untapped.
You play this on turn 2, and your opponent casts Crocs on their turn 2.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be bad though. Then, so
it's the Hushbringer quandary.
Yeah. Like, so I guess like it really depends on the deck. I guess. I don't know. It seems pretty cool, kind of, but bad at the same time.
Yeah. So we can jump in. Strixhaven Stadium. 3 mana. You can add a colorless mana, and you put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, you remove a counter, and then it's basically a race. If your creatures deal damage to the opponent, you put a counter on it. If you have 10 or more counters, you win the game. Your opponent loses. Really, where this got called out is in Paradox Engine decks. You can basically go infinite with tap untap. So you just tap this 10 times and you win the game.
Yeah, that'll be dumb to lose to for sure. I'm sure it's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I saw on TikTok and Twitter, Garbage Andy, another streamer, great person, hilarious person, makes hilarious content. He did a TikTok basically not complaining, but venting about how Wizards of the Coast basically took Harry Potter and made Strixhaven out of it without like being able to collaborate with whoever owns Harry Potter, Warner Brothers. And if you look at the art of Strixhaven Stadium, it looks like a knockoff Quidditch.
Yeah, I like it. They couldn't get the IP, so we didn't get Hermione.
Correlation. Favor.
Pure coincidence.
Sorry about that.
Is there like the Youthful Apprentice or something?
Not. There's no correlation.
So next one, Teachings of the Archaics. 2 in a blue. That's another lesson. Just one thing that popped in my head is something actually like in paper Magic, whenever that becomes a thing, if Strixhaven is legal during that, for like standard, I can just picture somebody casting something that gets a lesson out of their sideboard and then just like dead stare at their opponent dead in the eyes like, you're gonna learn today. It'd be really stupid but hilarious, I think. If an opponent has more cards in hand than you, draw 2 cards. Draw 3 cards instead if opponent has at least 4 more cards in their hand than you.
Yeah. Not
this one kind of seems like it might be play, but not at the same time. Like
it's a conditional divination.
Yeah.
So you're not even guaranteed to get the card draw. Your opponent has to have more cards than you.
Mm-hmm. The next one.
It's mind control, 4 mana for 3 CMC. The notable thing is this can take planeswalkers. Had 3 fairies still been legal, this would have been a sweet effect.
Oh yeah.
But I think this probably is bulk rare.
The next one, it's another land, the Biblioplex. Hope I said that right. Tap it, add a colorless 2-tap. Look at top card of your library. If it's an instant source card, you may reveal it and put it in your hand. If you don't, put that card into your hand. You may put it into your graveyard. Activate only if you have exactly 0 or 7 cards in hand. No.
Can we remove the reserve list so you can have a Library of Alexandria? No, we have Library of Alexandria at home. Yeah, it's probably too niche to be reasonable.
In standard and historic, I don't think it'll do great. Like maybe in other formats. That's my impression of it. Next card is a dual card or double-sided.
So we have Torrent Sculptor, 4 mana 2/2 with Ward 2. So basically counter unless your opponent pays 2 extra mana per spell. That targets it, and then when it enters the battlefield, exile instant or sorcery from your graveyard, and you put a number of 1/1 counters on Torrent equal to half that card's mana value. So that second part makes it a lot more reasonable against something like just being 2 toughness on its own. Plus it's got pseudo kind of protection in itself. The backside, 2 mana, discard a card, draw a card when you discard instant or sorcery. So basically burn damage equal to the CMC of the card you discard. So this can do anywhere from 8 damage to no damage. Sorry, I'm falling out of frame. So kind of conditional. You're probably better off playing the dragons.
Yeah, I agree. These are interesting though, like just seeing the art on these ones. Like this next one, it's another Izzet card. It's a Jin and a Efreet, so Uvilda, Dean of Perfection. I don't know. I'm chat knows with me and pronouncing things not the greatest all the time.
Whatever happened to just Craig, Dean of Perfection? Bob, Dean of Expression.
Dean of Expression. A lot of text on these ones. It's a 2/2. Tap, you may exile an instant source card from your hand. Put 3 hone counters on it. It gains at beginning of your upkeep. If a card is exiled, remove a hone counter. And add when the last hone counter is removed from this. If it's exiled, you may cast it. It costs 4 less colorless, less to cast this way.
Yeah,
it seems like kind of slow.
Suspend with discount.
Yeah. The Efreet side is 3 red, 4/4. Begin your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library till end of turn. You may cast spells from among those exiled cards, and you may spend mana as though or mana of any color to cast those spells. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, put a +1 counter on Efreet, Dean of Expression.
The backside's pretty interesting.
Efreet seems like it's more usable.
Yeah. You're still paying 5 mana. Like, doesn't do anything the turn it comes down. But then lets you start kind of getting that Tybalt kind of card advantage off the top of your opponent's library.
Yeah. Like, out of the two, though, I think I'd rather see the Nasiri than the Uvilda if I were to play it.
Yeah. Alright, we got a Golgari one. It's all you.
Ooh. Okay. It's 1 mana for the black creature. Valentine, Dean of the Vein, Menace Lifelink, Vampire Warlock. If a non-token creature an opponent controls will die, exile instead. If you do, you may pay a 2 colorless. If you do, create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with when this creature dies, you gain 1 life.
See, I think this is actually pretty good. It stops Cat Oven. At least the turn.
Yeah. But like the bad part is it dies super easily. But like in order to kill it, then they are gonna have to sacrifice like a cat or something. Sacrifice something. But the other side of it, Lisette, Dean of the Root, human druid, 4/4 for 4 mana. When you gain life, you may pay 1 colorless. If you do, put a +++ counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain trampled on a turn.
I think even the front side, you also consider just playing it in historic and mono black vampires. It's another 1-drop.
Yeah.
With Sorin, you make it really big. It's already got the embedded lifelink. The menace is really reasonable.
Which can be really good, and I believe Sorin gives Death Touch as well.
Yeah.
So maybe it gets a home in there. It's just the part of just a 1/1. That's the part that really makes me kind of worried of not being able to be played. But I could be very wrong with that. Of just like that's my gut feeling on it. I'm excited to see if it does do anything since it is Golgari. But basically, just seeing the backside of it, it feels more just a mono black card to me.
Yeah. Moving on, we have Vanishing Verse. Orzhov, colors, 2 mana, instant, exile target mono-colored permanent. This will be a great sideboard card in probably every Eternal format.
Vindicate comes to mind with this, but Vindicate is destroy any permanent, I think, or non-land permanent.
Yeah, it's 3 mana, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's super reasonable. Getting rid of Annex, Bone Crusher Giant, basically pretty much any of the adventure cards. So.
Yeah. What are things you can't? What? You can get rid of Ox for good. I don't know if in Orzhov you'd be worried about exile creatures.
I think just in general, just the flexibility of the removal.
Yeah. Well, the next one we got is another 3/3 creature. It's Boros, Spirit Cleric. Vigilance Trample. Whenever Venerable War Singer deals combat damage to a player, you may return target creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of damage Venerable War Slinger dealt to that player. So Embercleave onto this and bring something big back. No, you bring 2 things back, right? First strike and double strike.
Yeah, I think this card's actually really good. Notably, it can get back Luris as well.
Yeah. So that'd be pretty good. Like you just play Luris in the 60. I wouldn't mind seeing something like that, like a Boros aggro deck playing this in Embercleave. Maybe just take the old Scald's Boros deck, chuck this in there with Luris.
Yeah, or even just curve out at 3 mana. And then some Embercleaves. Have Luris and this be your top end. Maybe some Mauls.
Yeah. I think no matter what, if you play Boros, you're probably gonna play Scalds now.
Yeah.
It's really good. You essentially get a second hand for 2 turns.
Yeah, and even just pumping this up, Vigilance Trample.
I know really the next card people were talking about that for Salte Ultimatum.
Search your library for 4 basics, put 1 onto the battlefield, taps under your opponent's control, if it costs. So, yeah, I guess it helps you get your other line drops, but you're probably just better off playing the other thing.
Yeah, but the part of if you pay 4, put 2 of them onto the battlefield tapped under your control and the rest in your hand. just being able to have land drops on curve consistently, like that's
Yeah,
relevant too.
I think it just depends on how the decks progress. So they're originally all in on the ramp line like turbo,
Mhm.
and then they shifted to deal with mono red being so prevalent, going with the Shadows Verdict main, going the heavier removal. So I think
Mhm.
it just depends on those flex spots on how they want to bridge to the late game. Do they want to just try to race, or do they want to be more interactive?
True. The next one, the art's really pretty in this land.
Yeah, the lines have great art.
They do. They all have like very similar art too. Like they have a little like, I don't know what you would call it, like some kind of swirl thing in it. But it's the Simic show land.
Yeah. So then we have Avatar of Potential Eldrazi. 5 mana, 4/4. Whenever your opponent casts an instant or sorcery, if they don't pay 2 mana, you get to copy it. Very good in EDH for sure.
Mm-hmm.
May see like fringe play. I could see it being kind of interesting. The backside is 3 mana. Each player looks at the top 5 cards of their library, reveals a land, instant or sorcery from among them, puts it into their hand, gains life. So it's kind of modular effect. I think if you're going to play it, you're going to play the front side.
Yeah. My thought kind of with the front side, does that go into mono green Stompy? With it being kind of a more top end creature based aggro deck? Like,
But what are you looking to copy out of that?
I guess it really depends on the format. If there's a lot of spells running around, instant sorceries, so maybe it could be a sideboard card, and if your opponent is playing a lot of instant sorceries, that yeah, I guess it depends. Like it depends, like if it's a lot of like burn based or control based. Because like if it's like a control matchup, you don't want that. Like, well, you get to copy their counter spell if their opponent pays 2.
Yeah, but they're gonna generally, like against Stompy, I would imagine as a control player, I'm gonna be cutting down my counter spells and bringing in more things that play to the board.
Yeah. I guess we'll find
the
out.
last rare, yeah, the last rare, it's a Golgari one.
Okay. Witherbloom command. This one I'm excited about. Just because Golgari, it's a command. It's a cool art on it too. You get to choose to target player mills 3 cards, then you return a land card from graveyard to your hand. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Target creature gets -3/-1 till end turn. Target opponent loses 2 life. You gain 2 life. I think it doesn't sound super exciting, but it could be relevant depending on the deck, obviously.
Historic. This is going into the sideboard, I would guess, of Jund sack decks. You mill to find your cats and your Woe Striders. You can destroy Grafdigger's Cage. You can destroy Rest in Peace. You can destroy any sort of hate outside of Leyline.
Mm-hmm.
The kill creature potentially could come up. The life gain's probably not that relevant.
Yeah. In my mind, for the one deck that it would go into, or historic, it went to Jund, but I'm not sure if that's the right deck for Jund, really, or right card for Jund, unless there's a new Jund that comes out.
I can do Jund Croxa, like a Jund Mill, like self mill with Stitcher Supplier and stuff.
Yeah, like filling your graveyard up just for your Croxa is really good. And then
I think the biggest thing, it kills the graveyard hate.
Yeah, thank you for coming by for the set review. Thank you, Joe, for being on. Chat, if you want to check out MTG Joe, check out his YouTube content as well. Puts out a lot of good stuff. Joe usually comes into my chat and kind of talks me into playing blue-white control, but hasn't happened yet.
It's funny, for as much as I talk into blue I control, I hardly ever play it. I've
Yeah,
been,
you're
like,
mostly
ember
on mono
cleaving
red,
like
right?
crazy. Yeah, but if you do enjoy, like, I pretty much qualified for the MIQ the last year. Um, Generally, I'll play those on the weekends when it comes in. Towards the end of the month, we're always grinding for top 1200. Finished 172 last month. But yeah, play a mix. If you like historic, it's my favorite format, so I jam a lot of that. But thank you, Jaffer, for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming by. I appreciate that.